Hi, I'm Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with my weekly Friday Reads update. I've had a really good reading week. I realized way too late that I had book group this week. It was actually Wednesday night, and so I actually had to set aside the book that I was reading, which I very rarely do. That was The Year of the Horses by Courtney Mom. I've only got about 20% left, so I will get back to that. But I had to quickly request every version of our book group selection that our library has, and luckily the paperback came in pretty quickly. So what I've been reading is The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michelle Richardson. So, of course, like everyone else, I've been hearing about this book for several years. I wasn't there when we chose it at the meeting when it was chosen, so I had a general idea what it was about. And I expected kind of a light read. And I was pleasantly surprised to find an incredible amount of emotional depth and fascinating historical detail in this novel. So it's really about two things. It's about a program during the Depression, part of the WPA that Roosevelt set up, called the Pack Horse Library Project. And this novel is set in rural Kentucky, eastern Kentucky, in the Appalachians, up in the hills, a very isolated community, even only loosely a community because some of the people are so isolated in cabins in the woods by themselves. At the same time, this novel is also about the famous blue people of Kentucky. Now, this is a real thing, and as soon as I started the novel, I went running to Wikipedia to look it up and find out exactly what it was about. So there was one man who came over from France in the 1800s who had this genetic defect that turned his skin blue. Basically, the defect means that people with this genetic issue, their blood doesn't carry enough oxygen, so their skin turns blue. So he married someone else with the same genetic defect. They settled in rural Kentucky. And so there were generations of their family that were blue-skinned. And in this region of Kentucky, it was fairly well known, the blue people. So in this novel, the main character is a young woman, a 19-year-old woman named Cussie Mary, who is, according to her father, the last of the blues. So her father also has blue skin. So Cussie Mary has grown up this way. It's normal to her. However, and this is the part that really surprised me, though I guess it shouldn't, knowing human nature and what we're still dealing with today, but they were extremely badly discriminated against. The blue people were treated as a different kind of colored. So the novel takes place in 1936. Cussie Mary is a pack horse librarian, and she loves her job. Now, her father is worried because they are discriminated against. He is worried that she needs a husband to take care of her. So he's trying to set her up with a husband. She does not want to get married because married women aren't allowed to continue being librarians for the project. Again, a common sort of restriction in those times. So that's what's going on here. So Cussie Mary goes she goes into town, picks up books and magazines and newspapers They get cast-offs from larger communities and cities. Many of them are in terrible shape. The magazines and newspapers are old. But the really great thing is the joy that she and her fellow pack horse librarians bring to these isolated families out in the woods and the hills. So she rides around on a mule named Junia, who's a great character in the book, and she delivers books and magazines and newspapers, as well as homemade scrapbooks that she puts together. She does this herself. She includes, and the whole community contributes. It includes sewing patterns and recipes and tips for hunting and fishing, some Bible excerpts and scripture, small things that she's cut out of old newspapers, things that aren't news but are more entertainment. And her homemade scrapbooks are also very popular. So this was my favorite part of the book. I'm not quite finished yet, even though we talked about it last night. When someone in my book group said, "We have to talk about the ending," I said, "I'm going to the bathroom." So I didn't spoil the ending, though I did hear a few spoilers as we discussed it. But my favorite part of the book so far are Cussy Mary's journeys into the area to visit her patrons, because she has such a passion for books and reading and for spreading that knowledge and that passion. And it's so wonderful to see some of her patrons who are so isolated they rarely see anyone else. They get so excited when they see her ride up with new reading materials. And that's just wonderful. Now there's a whole other plot line about the blue skin phenomenon and a doctor in town who wants to study Cussy Mary and her father to find out what causes it. Now he says he wants to help them, and I think he does in a way, but he's also pretty, there's a lot of self-interest there, because he wants to discover this so that he can, write about it and make a splash for himself in the medical papers. So that's going on as well. I am really enjoying it so far. My book group last night gave it an average rating out of 10 of 7.5, which is quite high for us. It was really mostly 8s and a few 7s and 9s. There was just one person who didn't like it as much. And I'm loving it so far. I gave it an 8 last night. So that's The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michelle Richardson. Wonderful historical fiction focused on books that, I'm really enjoying. Now, I just started a new audiobook this week. I wanted something a little shorter because next Friday, a week from now, is the kickoff for my annual Big Book Summer Challenge. Now, you may remember hearing about this last year. This is a big year because it's the 10th anniversary of the challenge. And the idea is just to read big books during the summer or winter if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Everyone's included. So a big book for the challenge is defined as anything of 400 or more pages. You can just choose one big book that you want to tackle during the summer. You can choose several. You can do what I do and pull a whole stack off my shelf, knowing I won't get to all of them, but I devote my whole summer to reading bigger books. So I wanted to fit something small in before Big Book Summer begins. So look for that next Friday. I'll have a Big Book Summer video for you that explains everything and how you sign up. In the meantime, I wanted to fit in one more smaller audiobook before I start devoting my summer to big books. So I am reading a YA novel called The Final Six by Alexandra Monir. So this is it's science fiction. It's set in a post-apocalyptic near future where rising sea levels have flooded a lot of the land, where things have gotten to a point where there's not much that humans can do to stop what's happening. Global warming, has just gotten to, I guess, over the tipping point, so that, the ocean levels are rising, more and more areas are flooding, people are moving inland, and there's not much left to do to save the earth. So there's an international, like NASA, but international. I'm trying to remember what it was called. And they've been working for years on this mission to colonize Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. And in the novel, that is like the best shot at a place where humans could survive. It has water and oxygen, so there's this whole project going on. So what they've done is they have chosen 24 young people, older high school students, to go on this mission, to train for it and then go on the mission. Well, okay, to train for it, after the training, they're going to narrow it down to just 6, hence the title, The Final Six. Those 6 will go on a mission to Europa to get things started. So the idea is that they have chosen 24 of the most extraordinary young people they can find in the whole world. And there are representatives from all different kinds of countries, from all different places. So I'm only at the beginning of it. They've just announced the names of the 24, and the kids have all gathered in Houston at the Johnson Space Center for their training. So the novel focuses in on 2 of those kids in particular. Leo, who is from Italy, and as the novel opens, Leo is a very skilled, extremely talented swimmer. If the Olympics were still going on, he'd be in it. But as the novel opens, this is like the very first pages, Leo has kind of given up on life. His whole family has died. It's just him left. He feels like he has nothing left to live for. Nobody goes into the water because it's like filthy, because it's washed up over all the land. So he's from Rome. He goes into the water with the idea that he's not coming back. So that very day, he gets pulled out of the water by a friend of his and finds out he's been chosen for the Europa mission. So Leo is thrilled. This is great for him. It gives him something to live for. He has nothing left for him in Rome. So he's excited to go on the mission, and at least to go through the training and hopefully go on the mission. The other character that's the focus here is a young girl named Naomi. Now, Naomi's from the Los Angeles area, though again, everyone's had to move inland, so they're in the valley now. She is brilliant in science, and her younger brother has a medical issue that he was born with, a genetic defect. And her goal in life is to become a scientist, doctor, and to solve this mystery and cure her brother. So she's never been away from her little brother. They're very, very close. Both of her parents are still there. So Naomi is not excited about being chosen for the 24. She wants to stay home. She wants her life's work to be finding a cure for her brother. And in addition, because she's got a science background, she thinks the Europa mission's going to fail, based on research and data that she's read. So she goes into the training with a very different attitude, hoping to prove to everyone that the Europa mission can't succeed and get sent back home at the same time. So that's the setup. I'm still at the beginning. I think I'm on chapter 6. It's very good so far, very engaging, and I think it's going to be a fun ride. So that's The Final 6 by Alexandra Monir. That's a YA novel that I'm listening to on audio. So that's my reading for the week and a tiny preview of Big Book Summer. I would love to hear what you're reading. What do you plan to read this weekend? Let me know in the comments down below.